Close your eyes. The world is still turning softly. Somewhere beyond sleep, stories are waiting, moving slowly through rain and light and time. Welcome to the dream. The dream begins with a sound that is not quite a sound, a hush that moves like breath through a dark corridor. You step onto the train without remembering a platform, without remembering your feet. The floor simply arrives beneath you like a patient wave. The carriage exhales. Far away, the night makes itself thin and silvery, as if the sky has been pressed once between pages and is now a kept flower, tremulous and pale. This is the car of soft clocks. They hang from the curved ceiling like moons grown curious about the shape of time. They do not tick. They open and close like eyelids, their glass faces clouding and clearing, revealing numerals that unspool and curl and drift away. When the train leans, the clocks lean too, their hands dissolving into dark threads that cross and uncross like thoughts. You sit, and the bench remembers the weight of all the strangers who have ever needed somewhere gentle to rest. It sighs in a language made of linen and dusk. The window near you is cool, then warmer, then cool again, as though it is practicing the way seasons hold a palm. The rain that travels with the train is not ordinary rain. It slips down the glass in slow, lucid ribs, each drop a translucent bead with a single sleeping reflection inside, a lamp, a face, a coastline of eyelashes, a city swallowed by tide. When the droplets meet, the reflections mingle and exchange histories without words, then drift apart like small boats whose captains have softened into dreams. There are passengers here, though they are not always visible. Sometimes they are coats on hooks, sometimes velvet shadows that fall into the shape of a person and then forget what they were doing. When they do appear, they look as if they are listening to something that happens just outside what the ear can hold. You meet their glances in passing, eyes that have grown the patina of twilight, eyes that know the weight of a name spoken once and never again. No one asks you where you are going. The night has already decided to carry you there. At the far end of the carriage, a pale conductor moves like a tide through doorways that are not quite doors, parting curtains that are not quite curtains. He is not counting tickets. He is counting moments, the soft, unfinished kind, and setting them into the pockets of the sleeping. When he reaches you, he nods, as if recognizing a shape you haven't become yet. He offers a small card the color of quiet water. On it is a single word that changes whenever you blink. Harbor, home, afterwards, before. You put it away, and it becomes lighter than air, and then lighter still until it is the exact weight of a memory that doesn't hurt anymore. Through the window, a forest of glass drifts close and then withdraws like a thought you can't look at directly. Trees ring when the rain strikes their branches, a bell-soft music that enters the carriage by the corners. The sound gathers around your ankles, a low mist of tone, and continues up until your chest learns the hush and your throat learns the forgiveness. The train keeps moving. You can feel its rhythm not as motion, but as reassurance, as if something enormous and patient is walking beside the rails, keeping pace. A child sits across from you, or perhaps the memory of a child, holding a snow globe that contains a room from your childhood. That particular lamp, that particular curtain breathing at the open window, that shoebox under the bed. The child shakes the globe, and the air inside the glass fills with glittering dust, like afternoon, like dust motes in a cathedral where no one prays. A chair you had forgotten reveals its dent where someone once waited for you. The child smiles, and the globe becomes sea green and deep. Now it holds a city underwater. Lights glow in the drowned windows. The whole city is breathing slowly. You exhale, and the tide inside the snow globe recedes by the width of your breath. Stations arrive sometimes, not on the tracks, but within the windows. They pass across the glass like sentences written in a careful hand. Station of letters never sent. Station of lost footsteps. Station of warm tea that never cooled. Each platform is lit by lamps the color of distant pears. People stand in the framed light, not boarding, not leaving, simply existing at the exact moment when grief changes into something else. The conductor adjusts a lantern so their faces become a little clearer, and then dims it again so they are safe inside their own stories. Above you, one of the soft clocks loosens from the certainty of its circle. Its numbers become islands. Its hands grow river-bend curvatures and choose their own direction. The hour is a lake you could wade into. The minute is a dragonfly that keeps forgetting the difference between hovering and stillness. You realize you are not inside hours anymore. You are inside listening. You are inside the interval after a question, when no answer is needed, and the silence itself is a kind of answer. On the seat beside you lies a book whose cover remembers rain. When you open it, you do not see words. You see a room of wind. Curtains call to you with hems like tides. Pages turn by themselves, and the train seems to turn with them, aligning its curve to the curve of your eyelids. In one chapter, your grandfather ties a knot, and the knot holds a story in place until you are ready to open it. In another, a friend you loved walks down a street lined with star-bright puddles, and every step they take is the exact sound of "I forgive you." You close the book, and it becomes a pillow. You rest your hand on it and feel it breathe. The conductor returns with a tray of cups that emit the fragrance of warm rain on dry stone. He offers you one, and the steam writes a message on the window that you cannot read but somehow receive. You sip and taste a summer that once thought it would last forever. You taste a winter that kept you company when nothing else would. You taste the time you waited at a door and the time you were the door someone waited at. The drink becomes cooler and lighter. Your shoulders release a history of holding on. You did not know they were tired. They did. Out beyond the glass, the train travels through a field of moths, whose wings are small prayers. The light inside the carriage trembles as the moths draw near, and your reflection becomes a constellation of tiny drifting stars. You raise your hand, and 100 star moths settle on your palm, and you feel, not their weight, but the sifting of their unspoken names. When you lower your hand, they rise as a slow, luminous thought, and the window becomes again the river of night. There is a luggage rack, and on it a single suitcase that is also a sky. The clasp opens with the sound of distance arriving. Inside, folded maps of rooms you have lived in, each path drawn in candlelight. A jar of rain that remembers the scent of certain streets. A pair of salt white stones that were once a promise. A spool of ribbon cut from evenings you thought were ordinary. You touch the spool, and the ribbon unrolls down the aisle, gathering at your feet like a fall of twilight. It is warm. You wrap it once around your wrist, and the pulse beneath it steadies. The child with the snow globe has exchanged it for a paper crane. The crane is breathing. It hops to the windowsill and peers out at a lake in which the stars have made a sudden decision to swim like fish. The soft clocks notice. They tilt together as if conferring. One clock sighs and becomes a pocket watch. The conductor slips it into your palm. It does not measure anything except comfort. When you close your hand, the watch ticks once, a delicate velvet sound, and the carriage lights lower themselves until the entire car feels like a held breath, like the instant before the first note of a lullaby. You close your eyes not to leave, but to continue. The train moves as gently as a lullaby turning a page. The soft clocks breathe. The lamps make halos that drift and settle like snow. The conductor hums a line that remembers your name without saying it. Outside, the night opens another door inside itself, and the rails play their slow, faithful music. And the journey, unhurried and endless, carries you on, through the hush between moments, through the tender seam where memory becomes light, into a horizon that does not need to end. Story 2. The House That Floated Away. It happened quietly, on an evening that didn't belong to any season. The air was soft, with that color between blue and silver, the color of forgetting. No wind, no thunder, just the house, loosening its roots from the earth like someone releasing a long-held breath. At first it rose only an inch, the grass still brushing against its porch steps. The windows looked surprised but pleased, as though they had been waiting for this moment since the day they were built. A sigh passed through the empty rooms, across the hallway, through the curtains that moved without wind. Slowly, the house lifted. The soil fell away from its foundations in a gentle crumble, and for the first time, the underside of the floorboards met moonlight. Nails shimmered like constellations. The walls groaned softly, not in fear, but in memory, as if each plank remembered the hands that once touched it, the voices that once filled the rooms. Then came stillness. The house hovered above the field, and beneath it, the grass bowed in silence. A single candle still burned in an upstairs window. Its flame bent slightly, curious, not afraid. The night spread itself open like a quiet sea. Clouds drifted close and began to carry the house gently, rocking it the way water holds a leaf. Below, rivers unwound like ribbons, silver against the sleeping land. From above, the world looked almost peaceful, as though it too had decided to rest. Inside the house, time slowed until it could barely move. The clock in the kitchen ticked only when it remembered how. A kettle dreamed on the stove, whispering steam into the air like ghostly lullabies. The chairs, faithful as always, rocked themselves softly back and forth, their motion barely disturbing the dust that floated like pollen in warm light. In the living room, a book lay open on the table, its pages turned of their own accord, though there was no wind. Each page released a faint shimmer, a memory escaping like a breath. Laughter in a summer storm, a child drawing suns on the wall, someone humming by a window while the rain tapped gently at the glass. The house carried these small ghosts tenderly, not as burdens, but as warmth. Far below, the ocean opened its arms. The reflection of the floating house trembled upon the waves, a second home made of light, suspended upside down. For a moment, the two houses seemed to look at each other, one of wood and memory, one of reflection and dream. Between them, a single drop of light hovered, and it might have been the heart of the world, or perhaps just a star that had lost its name. The sky deepened into the kind of blue that means forever. Clouds thinned into mist, mist thinned into nothing. Now the house floated alone in a space where air and ocean were the same thing, vast, slow, endless. No direction, no destination, only drifting, only being. If someone had been inside, they might have heard a soft humming, not from the walls, not from the clocks, but from the space itself. The sound of peace when everything has finally stopped needing to hold on. Through the windows, faint shapes moved, silhouettes of all who had ever lived there, overlapping like reflections in rippling water. They did not speak. They simply watched the stars drift by the windows, as if the night itself had come in to visit. Sometimes one of them smiled. Sometimes one reached out and touched the window pane, leaving a print that glowed for a moment, then faded, like kindness remembered after many years. Down below, the ocean began to mirror the stars. The line between sky and sea disappeared, until everything, the house, the reflection, the stars, and the darkness, became one slow breathing color. It was the color of sleep. It was the color of being loved by the quiet. And then, softly, the candle went out. Not as an ending, more like a sigh that had finally finished its song. The windows no longer shone, but their glass still held the ghost of that light, like the inside of closed eyes that still remember the sun. The house kept floating, lighter now, freed from fire and time and sound. It passed above the horizon, into the thin silvery air where dreams go to rest before they are born again. Below, the ocean rippled once, as if waving goodbye, and then stilled. The night folded itself gently around everything. And somewhere, perhaps very far away, or very close inside your heart, a single light flickered on in another window. It might have been the same light, continuing its long, soft journey through the dark, carried onward, endlessly, by the quiet sky. Story 3. The Garden of Sleeping Birds. Somewhere between midnight and morning, There's a place the wind refuses to disturb. It lies beyond the sound of rivers, beyond the edge of memory, a garden built from quiet. You arrive there not by walking, but by growing still enough that the world begins to listen back. The path to it is narrow and silver, made from the dust of wings. When you step forward, your footsteps make no sound. They bloom into tiny ripples of light that fade behind you. Above, the sky hangs low and soft, the color of unspoken thoughts. In the garden, every branch carries a sleeping bird. Thousands of them, resting shoulder to shoulder, their feathers folded like petals, their chests rising in perfect unison. Some are small as a whisper, others wide as open hands. They do not dream of flight. They dream of stillness, of the air itself holding them, endlessly patient. The trees here have learned to breathe with care. Each leaf releases a faint sigh, as though afraid to wake the sleepers. Moonlight drips down the trunks in long threads of silver, pooling around your ankles like silk. You move slowly, not wanting to disturb this perfect hush. At the center of the garden stands a pond so still that even the stars hesitate to reflect in it. You kneel beside the edge. Your reflection blinks once, but you do not, and for a moment you are not sure which of you is real. A single feather floats on the surface. When it touches your reflection, ripples move outward, and the stars shimmer like slow applause. Somewhere deeper among the trees, a soft bell rings. One note, faint as a heartbeat heard through water. The birds do not stir, but the sound moves through them like a breeze through tall grass. You can feel it too, a quiet pulse, steady and infinite, as if the garden itself is alive and breathing with you. The air smells of dusk and rain that hasn't yet arrived. You reach out and touch a branch. It is warm. Beneath your fingers, the bark hums faintly, as though filled with hidden music. Tiny sparks drift from the place you touched, rising into the night. They hover for a moment, then settle onto nearby feathers, becoming small points of light. Now every bird glows just a little, as if the stars had chosen to rest upon them for a while. Their feathers shimmer with soft color, violet, pale gold, a quiet green that feels like forgiveness. You feel the light brushing against your skin, and it reminds you of something you've forgotten how to name. Peace, perhaps, or the first breath after tears. You walk further. The trees grow taller, their branches weaving into domes of shadow and light. Between their roots, pools of moon water form, slow, breathing mirrors that show moments rather than faces. In one pool, you see yourself as a child chasing a bird through summer fields. In another, you see yourself sitting beside a window during a storm, whispering secrets to the rain. Each image fades as you pass, not lost, just released. At the far end of the garden stands an archway made of woven feathers and vines. A figure stands beneath it, not a person exactly, but a shape made of light, with wings that shimmer like thoughts. It watches you with eyes that hold no questions. When it speaks, the sound is a breeze through reeds. You may stay as long as you wish. Nothing here needs to move. You nod. Because in this place, stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness without weight.
You sit upon a low stone, and the garden shifts to accommodate you, as though it has been waiting for you to rest. The grass sighs under your touch. One of the birds opens its eyes, a small silver thing perched near your knee. It looks at you, blinks once, and then, gently, begins to hum. The hum spreads. One by one, the sleeping birds begin to sing, not loudly, but softly, as if continuing a dream out loud. The sound weaves through the branches, through the still air, through your own breathing, until everything becomes one single tone of peace. The moon brightens, and the world feels lighter. You close your eyes. The song doesn't stop, it simply becomes part of your heartbeat. Time folds the way silk folds over itself in water. You lose count of how long you sit there. Minutes turn into distance, and distance into sleep. When you open your eyes again, dawn is only a thought, hovering somewhere far beyond the trees. The garden is the same, but different, softer, transparent, beginning to fade. The birds are no longer glowing, their feathers have turned to light completely. Each one rises soundlessly, drifting upward in slow spirals. They dissolve into the air, into the clouds, into whatever comes next. The sky grows brighter with every bird that disappears. Soon, only a few remain, perched on the highest branches, their shapes thin as breath. They lift their heads one final time and look toward you. Then they too dissolve, not into absence, but into calm. You stand. The garden around you begins to blur, its colors slipping gently into each other like paint in clear water. The path you came by glows faintly, waiting. You take one last look at the pond. It is empty now, perfectly smooth, reflecting only the brightening sky. As you walk away, you hear the faint sound of wings, not behind you, but within you. Something inside has learned to rest. Something inside has learned the language of silence. And when you finally step beyond the gate, you realize the air itself is singing, quietly, endlessly. It carries the hum of every bird that ever slept there. A lullaby for whoever still needs to find their way into peace. You listen, you breathe, and the song goes on. Story 4. The Library Beneath the Lake. Beneath the still surface of a lake that never ripples, there is a library no one remembers building. It does not belong to any map. It appears only when the moon is full and the wind is sleeping. From above, it looks like a faint shimmer beneath the water, a pattern of light that moves even when everything else is still. If you listen closely, you can hear the sound of pages turning somewhere deep below, not loudly, not quickly, just one at a time, as if the water itself is reading. You walk into the lake without feeling cold. The surface closes over your head like silk drawn shut, and the world above grows quiet. The deeper you sink, the clearer everything becomes. The light is soft and green, moving like thought. Schools of silverfish glide past, each carrying tiny words etched along their scales, sentences too small to read. Then you see it, the library. It stretches out like a cathedral built from moonlight and coral. Its windows are tall and arched, filled with drifting bubbles instead of glass. Inside, the shelves rise toward a ceiling that shimmers like the skin of the lake itself. Books float slowly between the aisles, pages fluttering though there is no current. You reach for one. The cover is made of water held in shape by memory. When you open it, ink dissolves into the air, forming soft clouds of words that drift around you. They are not written in any language you know, yet somehow you understand them, not as meanings, but as feelings. One phrase becomes warmth across your chest. A childhood morning, the sound of rain on a tin roof. Another opens like a scent, the place you once said goodbye. The words keep blooming and fading like tiny creatures of light, and you realize this library does not hold stories, it holds echoes. Each book is a moment the world has forgotten. The laughter of someone who no longer exists, the sigh of a tree when its first leaf falls, the heartbeat of a bird before it takes flight. They are all kept here not to be remembered, but to be safe. You drift deeper between the shelves. A faint light follows you, as if the books themselves are curious. You pass a desk made of pearl, where an open journal writes by itself, the pen moving slowly, gracefully, dipping into an invisible inkwell. You lean closer and see your own name written there, though you never came here before. Next to it, a single word that changes each time you blink. Returning, remembering, resting. Beyond the desk, a staircase spirals downward into deeper water. You follow it, your hair flowing behind you like smoke. Each step makes no sound. At the bottom is a door of glass framed in seaweed. Through it, light pulses like a heartbeat. You open the door. Inside is a circular room filled with floating candles. Though the flames burn underwater, they do not waver. In the center, a great book rests upon a pedestal of stone. Its pages turn without touch. You realize it is writing the present moment, your reflection on the page, your breath leaving silver bubbles that rise toward the ceiling. Every exhale becomes a new line of text, and every line dissolves into light. You close your eyes. The hum of the water fills your ears, deep and calm. You begin to remember things you didn't know you'd lost. A face that once looked at you like sunlight. A promise whispered into snow. A song your mother hummed but never finished. They move through you like tides, neither hurting nor healing, just passing, like waves returning to the shore that made them. When you open your eyes, the library seems brighter. The books around you are glowing softly, as if they have recognized something in you. You reach for another volume. This one opens to a page of light, and within it you see a memory that doesn't belong to you. A vast meadow under violet sky, a woman walking alone, her shadow stretching behind her like the line of time itself. She turns, and for a heartbeat, she looks at you through the page. Her eyes are calm. Then she fades, leaving behind only ripples of gold. It occurs to you that everyone who has ever dreamed might have left something here, a trace, a breath, a heartbeat. Perhaps this is where all dreams go when they end. The floor beneath you hums, and you notice tiny shells forming patterns, spirals, circles, constellations. They glow faintly, outlining your steps as you move. When you look back, your footprints are fading into light, as if you were never meant to stay. A shadow moves between the shelves. It is not frightening. It feels like company. A librarian, perhaps, but not human. Tall, slow, transparent, carrying an old lantern that burns like captured starlight. When it passes, the water grows warmer, and every book within reach shivers softly as if in greeting. The figure nods to you, not as a stranger, but as a guest returning home. You understand, then, that this library has no beginning and no end. It drifts beneath every dream, beneath every memory, like a pulse beneath skin. Whenever something is forgotten, it falls gently here, landing like a feather on the floor of eternity. Nothing is truly lost, only kept safe, waiting to be remembered again, not by mind, but by heart. You swim upward slowly. The light thins, softens. Above, the surface gleams like a window to another world. The moment you break through, the air tastes of rain and time. The moon is still there, pale and wide, watching. Behind you, the ripples smooth out, hiding all evidence that the library was ever real. Only one drop of water clings to your palm, glimmering faintly before it slips away. In it, for a second, you see words written in silver, but they vanish before you can read them. You stand on the shore, the night around you gentle and infinite. The lake is silent once more. Yet when you close your eyes, you can still hear the turning of pages somewhere deep below, and the faint hum of peace that comes from knowing that every forgotten thing is still being cared for, forever, beneath the water.
Story 5. The Clockmaker's Moon. Far above the sleeping earth, where silence gathers in silver folds, there hangs a workshop built from moonlight. It turns slowly through the dark like a watch without hands, a quiet sphere of brass and glass, floating between stars. This is where the Clockmaker lives. No one knows how long he has been here. Some say he arrived before time began, a single thought drifting through the dark until it found a place to rest. Others believe he was once a man who loved silence so deeply that the world granted him eternity to listen to it. The workshop hums with a sound too soft to measure, the breath of gears that move like tides. Lanterns float along the walls, burning with steady blue fire. Every surface gleams faintly with the dust of distant comets. The clockmaker's tools rest where his hands left them centuries ago. Fine tweezers of gold, brushes of starlight, magnifying lenses cut from frozen tears. He works at a table made of meteor stone, polishing a small piece of sky. Its edges tremble with light, a broken minute caught halfway between existing and fading. He turns it gently in his palms until it begins to glow again. Around him, unfinished clocks hang in the air. Some measure the heartbeat of whales sleeping beneath polar ice. Others mark the silence between two lovers who no longer speak. There are clocks that count the dreams of children, clocks that breathe with mountains, clocks that tick only when someone forgives themselves. The clockmaker moves carefully among them, tuning each one with the patience of centuries. When he touches them, tiny sparks float away, joining the soft snowfall of light that drifts through the workshop. Each spark becomes a new star, spinning slowly into the blackness beyond the window. Sometimes he pauses to look down at the world below. Through the glass floor he can see oceans breathing, forests turning in sleep,
cities glowing faintly like lanterns under rain. He never smiles, but there is kindness in the stillness of his face. He winds the stars not because he must, but because he loves how quietly they listen. Every once in a great while, a clock stops ticking. When it does, the sound reaches him even across light years. He sets aside his work, opens the drawer of lost seconds, and retrieves a key made of pure thought. Then he steps out onto the surface of the moon. Outside, the universe hums like a great sleeping animal. He kneels among the craters and waits. A small glimmer appears, a fallen clock tumbling through space, its casing cracked, its light fading. With slow hands, he lifts it and opens the back. Inside are moments tangled like threads, a goodbye left unfinished, a heartbeat that forgot itself, a wish whispered into the dark and never answered. He smooths them carefully, whispering to each one in a language that only silence understands. One by one, they return to their rhythm. When the clock begins to tick again, it glows softly, releasing its light into the night sky. Far below, someone wakes with the strange feeling that everything is going to be all right. They don't know why. They don't need to. The clockmaker closes the casing, breathes once upon it, and lets it drift back to earth. He returns to his workshop and pours himself a cup of moon water, thick and silver, tasting faintly of dust and dream. The steam rises and shapes itself into constellations he once built with his own hands. He watches them for a long time. On the far wall, an enormous clock spans from floor to ceiling. Its face is transparent, its hands made of light. Instead of numbers, there are phases of the moon, and instead of ticking, it breathes. Each breath pulls the tides of the world up and lets them fall again. The clockmaker stands before it, listening. When the rhythm falters, even slightly, he places his palm against the glass and the whole moon steadies beneath his touch. Sometimes he hums as he works, and the melody slips between the stars. Travelers on dark oceans mistake it for the sound of wind. Dreamers hear it as distant music, somewhere just beyond waking. Even time itself seems to slow when the clockmaker hums, afraid to interrupt. There are nights when he grows weary. He leans back in his chair, eyes half closed, and the moon rocks gently beneath him. The clocks continue their quiet labor, the stars keep turning. He wonders what it would be like to stop, to let everything drift as it will. But then he remembers the sound of the first heartbeat, the one that started it all, and he begins again. He opens a small box carved from nightstone. Inside is a single grain of dust, glowing faintly blue. He lifts it to his ear and listens. It is a second that never found its place, still searching for the right moment to exist. He smiles, almost imperceptibly, and sets it inside a new clock. When he winds it, a soft ripple passes through the universe. Somewhere far away, a baby takes its first breath. A candle flickers. A bell rings. Time for a moment feels new again. The workshop grows brighter, every clock in harmony. The air shimmers with quiet light, If you could stand there beside him, you would hear a music too gentle to name, the sound of everything moving as it should. At the end of his long work, the clockmaker steps out once more into the silver air. He looks down at the world below, vast and sleeping. He sees oceans breathing, mountains exhaling clouds, cities glowing faintly like lanterns in fog. He whispers a single word, something between blessing and farewell, and the moon tilts slightly, adjusting the tides of dreams. Then he closes his eyes. The clocks continue to tick, the stars continue to turn, and the universe keeps perfect time, guided by hands no one remembers, gentle, endless, and kind.
Story 6. The Shore of Nevermorning. There is a place beyond the horizon where night never fully ends, and morning never quite begins. The sky there is neither dark nor bright. It rests in a constant, quiet bloom of color, like a breath held between dreams. This is the shore of Nevermorning. You arrive not by walking, but by remembering what peace feels like. The sand beneath your feet is warm, though no sun has ever risen here. Each grain glows faintly, as if lit from within by the memory of starlight. When you step, your footprints shine for a moment before dissolving into the air. The sea stretches before you, vast and silent. Its surface is smooth as glass, reflecting a sky that shimmers like distant silk. Waves roll in slow motion, not breaking, only breathing. Each one leaves behind a faint trail of silver mist. And within the mist, small lights drift, tiny lanterns that move with the tide. They are dreams, you realize. Dreams that have finished their journey, arriving here to rest before they dissolve into eternity. Far along the shore, figures move through the haze. Some walk, some simply stand and watch the horizon. They are made of light and memory, their edges soft as the edge of thought. They carry lanterns in their hands, each one flickering with the echo of a life once lived. Every glow is a heartbeat, a moment, a love. You watch them without fear. They do not seem sad. Their stillness feels like gratitude, as if they have finally understood that every ending was a kind of arrival. The wind here is not really wind. It's more like music too slow to hear, moving through the air with infinite patience. When it touches your skin, it feels like someone saying your name softly, the way you might call yourself home. You walk along the shore. The water hums beside you, keeping time with your heartbeat. Beneath its surface, something vast stirs, the deep pulse of the world, the great rhythm that moves through everything that has ever existed. It isn't loud, it simply is. As you walk, you begin to see shapes in the distance, arches of light rising from the sand, doorways that lead nowhere, or perhaps everywhere. Through one, you glimpse a field of golden grass. Through another, a city made entirely of wind. Every door opens onto a dream someone once loved,
and let go. You come to a stop beside one archway wider than the rest. It shimmers softly, showing only the reflection of the sea behind you. When you look closer, you realize the reflection is moving differently. It shows not what is, but what has been. The journeys you've taken, the hearts you've known, the small, quiet joys that once passed through your hands like water. You lift your hand, and the reflection lifts its hand in return. A gentle goodbye, or maybe a promise. Somewhere behind you, the light begins to change. It's not brighter, only softer, as though the world is exhaling at last. The figures on the beach start to fade, their lanterns rising slowly into the air. They drift upward, turning into stars one by one, until the sky is full of new constellations, stories returning to the place they were born. You watch them go. You don't feel the need to follow. The peace here is complete. There is nowhere to go because you are already where everything ends and begins. The tide reaches your toes. It's warm, not like water, but like memory. When it pulls back, it leaves behind threads of silver that curl and fade. You kneel and touch the surface. It gives way like breath. For a moment, you see your reflection, but your reflection smiles before you do. Above the horizon, a single light begins to glow. Not a sun, not a star, something gentler, smaller, more eternal. It hovers there like the pause before dawn, a reminder that beginnings and endings are the same gesture, just turned in opposite directions. You close your eyes. You can feel the sound of the sea moving through you, that slow, ancient rhythm that holds everything together. Your thoughts grow lighter, your body transparent, your heart steady and full. In the distance, a bell rings once. Its echo rolls across the water, then softens into silence. You open your eyes one last time. The shore has disappeared. There is only light now, soft, endless, like the inside of sleep. You feel yourself floating, not up, not down, just through the air, through the moment, through the vast calm that waits beyond waking. Somewhere behind you, the world continues to turn. Somewhere ahead, another dream begins. But here, in this still, luminous now, you are home. And the light holds you as gently as the night once did. Good night. The dream